You are Pen. You do not count. You are my friend.
Hi, I'm LadyJenevia. I know I've been super MIA on my channel, but I've just had a lot of things going on. It's been a challenge trying to find a new equilibrium with creating videos and planning what I'll be creating in the coming weeks and months. But as soon as I saw the announcement on the Bird app about Bridgerton Season 3, I knew I had to pop on and share my initial thoughts on this latest development. Back during the press tour for Season 2, Shonda Rhimes had mentioned that they weren't necessarily going to be adapting the books in order, which immediately got everyone speculating as to whether or not they were going to be doing Colin and Penelope's season next, even though in the books, Benedict is book 3 and Colin is book 4. Another reason why some people were thinking that Colin and Penelope would be next is because of how much more focus they were getting in season 2, with sort of setting up a false hope that they were finally starting to get some romantic momentum going, only for Colin to completely obliviate those hopes because
you're not very pretty and you're not very bright.
Just as a reminder, because there are always at least one or two people who forget, or someone new coming into my channel for the first time, if you are a reader of the Bridgerton books, please do not write anything about the details of the plot from books 3 onward, since I have not read them yet, and I don't want to know spoilers before watching the seasons for the first time. I'm doing a thing where I watch the new seasons as unspoiled as possible, and then I read the corresponding book from which it is being adapted afterwards, so I can compare and contrast the adaptation with the source material. And yet people keep coming into my comments and spoiling things, and you're really ruining the fun for me, and it makes me want to either do less videos about the show than I actually want to be doing, or be less interactive in my comments, and I don't want to be less interactive in my Bridgerton comment sections. I like having a back and forth with other viewers of the show, but even on my most recent community tab, I said, don't post spoilers from books 3 onward, and then multiple people proceeded to post spoilers from books 3 onward. It's strange that the people who have done the reading couldn't be bothered to read what I wrote. Either that, or you did read it and you just didn't care or respect what I was saying. I don't know. But just don't say anything. You saying, I don't think this is a spoiler but, and then saying some from the books is the exact opposite of not posting spoilers. I don't care if you think the detail is insignificant. I don't want to know. Now, on to the main topic of discussion. Colin and Penelope have in fact been confirmed to be the next main couple of the show. When we left off season 2, we had Penelope in this really low place. In a very broad sense, there is a sort of parallel with Antony, where in season 1 he had experienced a type of romantic heartbreak which set him off on this new trajectory in which he specifically was deciding that he needed to find a wife, someone to be the new Viscountess Bridgerton, since that is part of his responsibilities and his duties as Viscount Bridgerton. Penelope has a lot going on in her life. She had this huge falling out with Eloise, and Colin, not very bright Bridgerton, did nothing but aggressively friend-zone her, and pardon the use of that expression, I actually really dislike the term, but I don't know how else to concisely reference what happened other than yikes! What I've observed online is that a lot of people are less excited about the prospect of a Colin Penelope season being next on the list because they don't like the things Penelope has done and they don't like Colin being Colin. But for me personally, I think I've reached a point of being more open to this for a couple of reasons. For starters, I think both of these characters are being subjected to similar treatment I've observed against characters who have the audacity to be immature or flawed. More specifically, anytime certain characters have to start at a more regressive point so they can grow and evolve and mature, viewers can be very harsh towards them, and I don't agree with that response. Neither Colin nor Penelope are my go-to characters if someone were to ask who are your favorite characters on Bridgerton, but that doesn't mean I like the idea of people being hostile towards these characters on the show in a manner I find similar to how People were really negative towards Mark Hamill when he first began playing Luke Skywalker, and there was this deliberate choice to play the character as this whiny kid who had yet to begin his hero's journey. Jake was bullied out of acting altogether. Hayden Christensen was bullied. Ahmed Best was bullied. Let me summarize all of this. Are we, romance fans, going to cross any lines and lash out at these characters or their actors the way that Star Wars fans have done to certain people? I'm just going to leave that question open for all of you to ponder. The more I've thought about the way season 2 ended, the more I like it. More specifically, the Eloise and Penelope fight. That was a great time for me to watch. I live for all of that drama because it's fictional. It's entertainment. And now the girls are fighting. We've got to find a path towards reconciliation. And Colin is set up perfectly to be forced to grovel. How are any of you going to tell me you don't want to see this man-child grovel? He keeps doing Penelope dirty. He owes her and us, the audience, some top-tier groveling. I hope someone throws a plate. I don't know why, but when I think about how dirty Penelope did Marina and how dirty Colin did Penelope, someone better throw a plate. Or several. I'm not picky. He is not very bright, and I need him to make amends for being so casually cruel about Penelope's potential as a romantic partner. Obviously, all of us may or may not feel some type of way because of what Penelope did to Marina or what Penelope did to Eloise, but Colin doesn't know about any of that. He has no legitimate reason to be as nasty as he was in that season finale about her. Bridgerton writers, I want to see this man crawl. Another point I've pondered about a Colin Penelope season is that we've already got the reveal to Eloise about Penelope being Lady Whistledown. Presumably others will likely find out as well, and I struggle to think about how it would reasonably make sense for Penelope to keep writing a nasty tabloid if she's meant to have her character grow, mature, and potentially get redemption and get her romantic endgame, love story. Part of me wonders if there might be a way to pass the torch to Eloise, where Eloise could take on the alias of Lady Whistledown, but turn it into something more political, something to get these insufferable bourgeoisie members of the ton shaking in their overpriced shoes. But it's really too early to tell where they will end up going with that. Either way though, if Penelope ends up quitting her tabloid, which I hope she does because I hate tabloids, they are required to keep Julie Andrews on as a narrator. I don't care if Lady Whistledown stops existing as an active part of the canon. Just let Julie glide into the recording booth and say some lines to tell us what's going on with everybody. Additionally, in just a general sense, I am still waiting for her to have an on-screen cameo. I want to see her in a colorful outfit and showing these kids how it's done. One facet of Colin and Penelope being next that I debated whether or not to include in this video, but I think I'll mention it and see what the audience thinks, unless I end up ignoring my comment section because people don't know how to follow instructions of not saying anything about what's in books 3 onward. I am intrigued by the idea of Colin being the male romantic lead of the main romance of this upcoming season, because if you will recall, I believe it was back in season 1, which admittedly I have not rewatched a bunch of times like I have season 2, but somewhere in there I vaguely remember Anthony getting into it with Colin and saying something like, "Oh, I should have taken you to a brothel." And the meaning behind that was that Colin is inexperienced with women. I am intrigued by the possibility that Colin might be, for lack of a better term, a virgin. Now, before any of you go jumping at me about how virginity is a social construct, I know that. But I only mean it in the sense that from what we've seen on the show, Colin has not been with any women to that extent. We saw Anthony doing a whole lot before he ever met Kate, and we've seen Benedict going to those adult parties and just enjoying being with other people. But we haven't seen Colin getting into any of those shenanigans, even though at this point he does seem like he would be, in theory, old enough to indulge. I like that season 1 and season 2 are so different from each other. I don't want to see the same general format of a love story repeated with just different characters put into the lead roles. I want each love story to be unique, and I think that we as an audience very rarely get to see inexperienced men in mainstream romance. It's almost always about women making that transition from repressed, inexperienced, virginal, to being liberated, awoken, and so on and so forth. Even in season 1, Simon was shown to be someone who might go to a brothel if he felt like it. At this point, I really hope that they keep Colin away from all of that, because it really feels like this is a space that offers a lot of potential and opportunity to do something different with the storytelling for the season's main romance in comparison to the others that we've already seen. Also, I know I've made my fair share of jokes or snarky comments about Colin, but I hope that even people who don't really like Colin on the show can see the potential for a fun viewing experience in season 3. The way I see it, the show will either do a great job with Colin being able to grow and mature into a compelling romantic lead, or they won't be able to deliver and we get to keep roasting him. Either way, I feel like I'm going to have a fun time, and that's one of the things that I really like about Bridgerton as a show. I get to have fun with the viewing experience. One of the reasons Bridgerton has been so successful as a show is that there is a certain element of fantasy. More specifically, the fact that it's meant to be a sort of post-racial world where racism has been solved, but apparently not misogyny or homophobia or classism, which translates to any ethnicity being able to potentially play a lead character in a central romance. Being that both Colin and Penelope are white, I think it's even more of a safe bet that Kate and Anthony will get to have a decent presence in some sort of a B plot in season 3. They were already very popular as a couple, but additionally there are a lot of people who watch Bridgerton as a show without a pre-existing knowledge of or attachment to the source material. For that audience, the ethnic diversity is an essential part of the world, so I'm hopeful that the people running the show are in fact aware of that and will give all of us more Kate and Anthony material to enjoy. Also, it would be really fun to have that contrast, since Kate and Anthony had so much drama in the lead up to them finally confessing their love and deciding to be together, that now hopefully they will get to be the happy ones while Colin and Penelope get to be the ones going through it. Just drama and mayhem. I know there are some people like myself who love Benedict Bridgerton, who really wanted to see him up next because not only was he next in the books, but just because we really love him.
To honor her being with your deeds and words.
Darling, why waste 10 more seconds on that horse's ass when Mr. Tie-Me-Up-Tie-Me-Down is waiting for you over there? Huh?
But think about it for a moment. If anyone is worth the wait, it's Benedict. I'm not going to go on a long tangent about Benedict because I've already said on my community tab that Benedict will in fact be getting his own video eventually from me. But even though people are saying that it's questionable to put Colin and Penelope after the extremely popular and successful coupling of Kate and Anthony, you have to admit that you would be setting them up in an even more difficult position if they had to go after both Kate and Anthony and Benedict. Benedict on the show is the most likable character around. He's a poet, he's an artist, he's funny, he's charming, he's great at emotional labor. Colin and Penelope have to go at some point. We already know that Netflix gave Bridgerton the early renewal for seasons 3 and 4. If it was only a season 3 renewal, I might be more stressed and anxious and annoyed. But we know there's got to be at least one more season after Colin and Penelope, so it's only natural we do Benedict then. And I know my boy will be worth the wait. He's worth everything. Let's just hypothesize the worst case scenario where we have to stop at 4 seasons instead of doing at least 1 or 2 more Bridgerton siblings after that, if not the full set. Do you really want the show to end with Colin and Penelope, or would you want to close things off with the absolute best, goofiest, fun, and earnest Bridgerton sibling? Exactly. Now, if we finish season 3 and they delay Benedict once again, then we can talk about rallying. We can talk about making things a bit more French.
I'm glad you brung it up because I've been dying to talk about it for a fucking hot minute. First of all,
look at the material.
You should be going home anyway.
You can be the judge of it.
French people, if you're watching, I respect the energy. Anyway, let's just make sure that going into season 3, we enjoy the ride and get very loud in our support for Benedict so that we let these people in charge know that a season swap between Colin and Benedict is the only delay that we will accept, because for as diplomatic as I've aimed to be about reserving judgment on season 3 until I can see it and see Colin and Penelope's story play out, I can't imagine I'll be as diplomatic if Benedict is not season 4. Let my boy fall in love. It's what he deserves. To just love and be loved in return. Those are my initial thoughts about season 3 being officially confirmed as Colin and Penelope's season. Thank you to everyone that has stuck around on my channel. I appreciate your patience since I've been really busy trying to balance so many other things in my life. I actually have something in the works for June that I don't know for sure if it's going to happen yet, so I don't want to say what it is, but if it does happen, it definitely has the potential to flip my original plans for what I'll be doing that month on its head, but we'll put a pin in that for the time being. Please consider subscribing, as I'm really close to hitting 14K, which is almost 15K, which I suppose is almost 20K. And at this point, I think 20K is going to be my tentative subscriber goal for this year. Maybe it's a stretch to aim for that, but we have to try. Gotta get the channel up and growing so I can try to get on that Bridgerton season 3 junket, because believe me, I have questions. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.